Next on Diverse Long Island, the struggle continues 50 years after LBJ signed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. An in-depth discussion on the challenges the community still faces today. Plus, she broke barriers by believing no job is out of reach. How Marsha Ann Gillespie became a pioneer in the magazine industry. And
I'm a wrestler. I'm a gladiator. I'm stronger than everybody.
He's a little boy with a warrior spirit, and he's received an outpouring of support. Diverse Long Island starts right now. Welcome to Diverse Long Island. I'm Alicia Laventure. President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act just over 50 years ago, but many feel there's more work to be done. Attorney General Eric Holder and President Obama among them.
We know we cannot be complacent. For history travels not only forwards, history can travel backwards. History can travel sideways. And securing the gains this country has made requires the vigilance of its citizens.
Joining me now to discuss the civil rights challenges of today, Doug Mayers, head of the Freeport Roosevelt chapter of the NAACP. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Well, in the NAACP's views, what are the biggest concerns when it comes to civil rights?
Some of us biggest concern today is unemployment, where blacks are concerned across the nation. In every facet, every field that you could think of, throughout the whole country right now, blacks is about 14% unemployed. And that is something that troubles us a lot where the NAACP is concerned, because these issues we were fighting on for years. I am involved with the branch here now about 16 years. And before I got involved with this, let me say in the last 105 years of this great organization, these were some of the issues still persisted there after the Civil Rights Act and everything else that was fought for and won, and which some people there is trying to overturn in Washington, where politics is concerned on these issues. The president did a good job in his first term. He put a lot of money, tried to get a lot of money up there for jobs program, but the opposition in Congress refused to go along and support that, you know, and this is why it's causing this big unemployment issue here across the nations.
Do you think there are any issues with regards to civil rights specific to Long Island?
Oh, yes. A matter of fact, something in a lot of cases where the courts is concerned. Black civil rights all the time is not appropriately addressed in the court. The unfairness where the court system is concerned, if you walk into any of these courts here in Nassau County, you hardly see any court officers of color where blacks is concerned within Nassau County, especially in Nassau County. In Queens and Brooklyn and other places, there's quite a majority of African Americans in those court systems. In Nassau County, it's hard for you to look and find a black court officer here in Nassau County. So that's detrimental to our young people, especially when you go before the court. It's just in the last 10 to 15 years that we had success in electing quite a few black judges here in Long Island. But still, when you look at the court and you go before the court, there's no black court officers, hardly any in any of the court, even the Supreme Court here in Nassau County. You doesn't find that, you know? So civil rights here in the county is still a far way behind.
Well, the president recently made a trip to New York. He spoke before Reverend Al Sharpton's National Action Network, and he said this about efforts by some states to pass voter ID laws.
The real voter fraud is people who try to deny our rights by making bogus arguments about voter fraud. America did not stand up and did not march and did not sacrifice to gain the right to vote for themselves and for others, only to see it denied to their kids and their grandchildren. We've got to pay attention to this.
Doug, now, do you agree with the president? Do you believe voting rights is still an issue?
Wholeheartedly. We fought 2 years ago, the NAACP took every case to court that was going to cross this line, where they was trying to bring about all these different ID cards and cutting off days when normally blacks go and vote ahead of election, and that's usually on Sundays after church. And them try to cut out that in quite a few of these states. you know, and the NAACP took it to court and won quite a few battles on that. Our former president, who just left us, Ben Jealous, did a terrific job where that was concerned. So they're trying to set the clock back. The Supreme Court itself is involved in turning back a lot of these civil rights issues that was won by folks who suffered, bled, and died for these things. The type of Supreme Court we got today, I wonder how these folks get on the Supreme Court, you know, because I think a lot of them is just racist as far as I'm concerned, you know, where the Supreme Court is concerned. We don't have men like we used to have before, Thurgood Marshall, Warren, and people of that category on the Supreme Court today. Look at Thomas, who's African American, from he got on the Supreme Court. There's nothing that he had done or ruled on that support anything where civil rights is concerned.
Well, Doug, thank you so much for joining us today. Diverse Long Island will be right back. He may be tiny, but a young man from Long Beach is showing he has the heart, strength, and commitment of a warrior. News 12's Virginia Huey shows the inspiring story of Isaiah Bird, a boy with the heart of a champion.
Let's go, let's go.
Now, since we first aired this story, News 12 has received scores of calls from people wanting to help. As a result, Isaiah now has a wheelchair, and he's received offers of help to find housing and host fundraisers. When we return, the story of a Long Island musician who wrote the bass line to a classic that just about everyone knows. The life and work of a jazz man and how his daughter is keeping his legacy alive. Next on Diverse Long Island. Well, serious jazz buffs know he's one of the greats, but most casual music fans don't even know his name. Lloyd Trotman's talent on the bass gave sound and soul to hundreds of hits in the 1950s and 60s. News 12's Long Island Virginia Huey has the Huntington native story. Linda Trotman is now compiling her father's recordings and photos. She plans to write a book about his contribution to music history. She dreamed of becoming a historian, but Marcia Ann Gillespie of Rockville Center ended up making history by breaking barriers. Our Virginia Huey shows us how Gillespie became the driving force behind 2 major women's magazines. Gillespie is also the author of Maya Angelou, A Glorious Celebration. She's currently writing a memoir titled When Blacks Became Americans. We'll be right back. The makeup of America is ever-changing, and so are the attitudes about race and how people perceive the President of the United States. According to a new poll by the Pew Research Center, 52% of Americans don't see President Obama as black. A majority of whites and Hispanics consider him to be mixed race. However, a majority of black respondents said they see him as black. Remember, you can always follow Diverse Long Island on our Facebook page. That's facebook.com/DiverseLI. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is #DiverseLI. That's all the time we have for this edition of Diverse Long Island. Thanks again to Doug Mayers of the NAACP for coming in, and thank you for watching. I'm Alicia Laventure. Enjoy your weekend.